The battle for control of Buckingham Palace's entrance lasted only minutes, but the intensity of those moments would be remembered for years by everyone who witnessed them. Morrison moved through the chaos with the calculated precision of someone who had learned urban combat in Afghanistan's most dangerous neighborhoods. While tourists fled in terror and news cameras captured dramatic footage from safe distances, he systematically dismantled Blackwood's operation with a combination of tactical thinking and physical skill that left the criminals completely unprepared. Sarah Chen attempted to escape after losing her jamming device, but Morrison anticipated her movement and cut off her retreat route using terrain knowledge that came from months of studying every possible approach to the palace grounds. He cornered her against the ornate iron fence that surrounded the royal property, and when she produced a concealed weapon, his response was immediate and overwhelming. Years of military training took over as he disarmed her with moves that were both efficient and controlled, ensuring she posed no further threat while avoiding unnecessary harm. The fake protesters found themselves facing multiple Queen's Guards who had dropped all pretense of ceremonial duty and were now operating as the elite soldiers they truly were. Marcus Webb discovered that his lockpicking skills were useless when confronted by men trained to eliminate threats with automatic weapons and advanced tactical coordination. The protest signs that had concealed their weapons became liabilities as the guards used superior positioning and firepower to systematically neutralize each threat. Victor Blackwood watched his perfect plan collapse from the black sedan, his radio communications filled with desperate calls for extraction as his team members were either captured or forced to surrender. The utility workers who had been positioned to control escape routes found themselves trapped between armed guards and police units that were arriving with increasing frequency. Their maintenance van, which had seemed like perfect cover for carrying weapons and equipment, became an obvious target that drew immediate attention from counter-terrorism specialists. The armored transport reached the safety of the palace compound, but Morrison wasn't finished with his defense of Crown property. He coordinated with arriving police units to establish a perimeter that would prevent any gang members from escaping, using his knowledge of the surrounding area to identify potential hiding spots and escape routes. His radio communications reflected the calm professionalism of someone accustomed to managing complex tactical situations under extreme pressure. Tommy Rodriguez, the gang's expert driver, found his legendary knowledge of London's back streets useless when every potential escape route was blocked by police vehicles responding to the emergency. Morrison had anticipated the gang's likely extraction plans and provided law enforcement with precise information about where to position their units for maximum effectiveness. The criminal who had never been caught during a robbery was suddenly facing the possibility of spending decades in prison. Blackwood made one final desperate attempt to salvage the situation by ordering Rodriguez to ram through the police perimeter while he provided covering fire from the sedan. The plan might have worked against ordinary security personnel, but Morrison had already positioned himself to intercept exactly this type of escape attempt. When the black sedan accelerated toward the gap between police vehicles, Morrison stepped into the open with his service weapon ready and fired precisely aimed shots that disabled the vehicle without endangering innocent bystanders. The sedan crashed into decorative barriers surrounding the palace grounds, and Blackwood found himself trapped in wreckage while armed police surrounded his position. His reputation for brilliant planning and flawless execution meant nothing when faced with opponents who understood criminal tactics and possessed superior training and equipment. The man who had evaded capture for years was suddenly facing overwhelming force that left him no options except surrender. Morrison's actions during those critical minutes had prevented what could have been one of the most successful heists in British history. The royal artifacts in the armored transport were worth more than most people earned in their entire lifetimes, and their loss would have been both financially devastating and symbolically damaging to the monarchy. His quick thinking and decisive intervention had protected treasures that represented centuries of British heritage and cultural significance. The aftermath of the failed heist revealed the true scope of Blackwood's criminal organization and their previous successful operations. Police investigators discovered detailed plans for dozens of other potential targets, evidence of 17 completed robberies, and a sophisticated network that had been operating across multiple countries. Morrison's intervention hadn't just stopped one crime. It had dismantled an entire criminal empire that had been growing bolder and more ambitious with each successful operation. Sarah Chen, Marcus Webb, Tommy Rodriguez, and Victor Blackwood all received lengthy prison sentences that reflected both their criminal histories and the serious nature of their attempt against Crown property. The evidence gathered from their operation led to arrests in several other countries, breaking up associated criminal networks that had been cooperating with Blackwood's organization for years. Morrison's quick recognition of the threat had triggered investigations that ultimately protected potential victims around the world. The Queen personally recognized Morrison's exceptional service with a commendation that acknowledged his courage and tactical skill in defending royal property. The ceremony took place in private, reflecting the discreet nature of the Queen's Guard's actual duties, but Morrison's fellow soldiers understood the significance of royal recognition for actions that went far beyond normal expectations. Morrison continued his service with the Queen's Guard, though his reputation within military and law enforcement circles was permanently enhanced by his successful defense against such a sophisticated criminal operation. His experience became part of training scenarios used to prepare other guards for potential threats, and his tactical decisions were studied by security professionals around the world as examples of how to recognize and counter organized criminal activities. The attempted heist also led to significant improvements in security protocols around royal property and valuable government assets. Morrison's after-action reports identified vulnerabilities that had made Blackwood's plan viable and suggested modifications that would prevent similar attempts in the future. His recommendations were implemented not just at Buckingham Palace but at royal residences and government facilities throughout the United Kingdom. Years later, law enforcement officials would point to Morrison's intervention as a perfect example of how proper training, quick thinking, and decisive action could turn the tables on even the most carefully planned criminal operations. The Queen's Guard, who had seemed like a ceremonial figure to casual observers, had demonstrated that he was actually a highly trained protector capable of defending the crown against any threat, no matter how sophisticated or well prepared.